You know, oil is the big talking point. You're the last word on it. Let me begin by asking you, there is obviously excess oil in the world. Crude has crashed. It has come to levels of 50. What is the new normal according to you?
I mean, first of all, oil prices collapsed for two reasons.
That's right.
And they are all exceptional. One of them is the oil supply, oil production increase from countries outside of OPEC in a record level. 2 million barrels per day. It is the highest increase in the last 30 years.
That's right.
This is one. Second, demand of oil increased very, very slightly. The demand was very, very weak because the economy of major consumers were very weak. For example, China. What we have seen last year, China had the lowest economic growth of the last 25 years.
That's right.
Europe still struggling in the economy. Japan is in recession. These two factors came together. The lower economic growth, therefore lower demand, plus a lot of production happening from US, Canada, and the others. As a result of that, the price collapsed. And now, I believe this is not a situation which will last forever.
That's right.
It's a temporary situation, and I expect that this demand-supply forces will find a balance towards the end of this year, and we may well see an upward pressure on the prices sometime this year.
So when you say upward pressure on prices, do you expect crude to be around $60 a barrel? Is that a new normal for the world, and should the world make its peace with that price by the end of this year maybe?
By law, I cannot give you a number,
Right.
but what I can tell you is that the current prices will need to go up in order to increase the production and find a balance in the markets. But I don't think that it will come to the levels immediately, to the levels that we have seen before this collapse. So $110, $120, it will not come there, but it will be an upward pressure. But in the meantime, countries like India, like other oil-important countries, should make use out of this breathing zone, comfort zone.
I was just going to talk to you about how India should leverage this comfort zone, but I will first ask you a question. There are two distinct reasons that you've outlined. One, of course, is the supply glut. The other is the weak global demand. Let's tackle one by one. The supply glut. OPEC has decided not to cut down on production for obvious reasons because there is a lot of supply happening outside of OPEC. US is increasing its shale gas output. How do you expect that scenario to be balanced?
I would expect that the...
Do you expect an OPEC cut happening eventually?
No. What is happening now is that many companies, oil companies, are cutting investments.
That's right.
We expect 2015 oil investments will be 15% less than the year before, 2014. It's a big drop.
That's
it
right.
only happened once in the last 2 decades when we hit the 2009, the financial crisis. So it is the second time it is happening. So it is a unique issue.
That's
so
right.
therefore, we will see a downward pressure on the production. And this will be mainly on the high-cost areas, North America, Brazil, and others.
Right. Fair point indeed. The other bit, and that's about the demand scenario, China slowing down is very bad news as far as global economy is concerned. A meltdown in China means commodity exporters will be hugely impacted. What sort of an impact are you assessing because of the China slowdown right now?
China's slowdown is a serious issue, but we shouldn't forget that China will still grow above 7%. It's a huge growth. China 10 years ago was growing 10%. It was a smaller economy. Now 7%, but it's a bigger economy.
That's right.
So therefore, we will see the Chinese demand growth will be still serious. But I also expect demand growth coming from United States as well, because U.S. economy is very strong, one of the strongest in the world. And second, the lower oil prices, gasoline prices, diesel prices in the United States will give a boost to demand growth as well.
Fair point. You started by saying that India should be able to leverage this comfort zone that happens in the meanwhile before crude oil prices begin to firm up. The question that comes to all our minds is that how will India leverage this? Our stock, we don't trade in oil futures. It's not such an evolved market. And the other thing is storage. Storage is dismally poor as far as India is concerned.
I think one of the most important instruments, not fully, but mostly used by the Modi government.
That's right.
Which is to deregulate the diesel prices. This will, on one hand, lower the demand growth, which is a good news. On the other hand, it is good for the fiscal balances of the country. This is number one. Number two, I think India should make use of this time to improve the efficiency of energy use in the country.
I want to speak to you about Russia particularly because I heard you in the session. How worried are you about low oil prices as far as countries like Brazil and Russia are concerned, especially Russia? I mean, they are also imposed with sanctions and now, of course, low oil prices, which is the big lifeline for that economy.
That this oil price collapse, ended up with some winners and losers.
That's right.
When I look at the losers, I see three countries which are big losers, starting with Russia, Nigeria, Venezuela, followed by Iran. For Russia, it is rather serious, I would say, because today 70% of the Russian export revenues come from oil and gas. And we expect with these prices, Russian oil and gas export revenues will go down by $150 billion. It's a big thing.
Yes.
And this would mean that a Russian economy will suffer, plus the sanctions that the international community pose on Russia means that the Russian production will be also negatively affected because of the not having enough access to finance, not enough having access to full technological know-how. So as a result of that, the combination of this, the price effect and all the effect from the sanctions may be a big challenge for the Russian economy for the next years to come.
Besides Russia, the other parts of Europe are also showing deflation at the periphery. How much does low oil prices accentuate the deflation?
It does, but I don't think this is the most important problem we are facing today. I believe the most important problem we are facing today with the low oil prices is the impact on the investments.
That's right.
It is really deteriorating everywhere, especially in the North America and Brazil. And second, the big major oil exporting countries' economies are in big difficulty. So I think they should learn a lesson that their economy shouldn't be based on a single commodity. It makes their economies vulnerable to the international oil price shocks.
You've prompted me to my next question because many people believe that cheap oil will augur very badly for countries like Saudi Arabia, which may actually see a lot of social unrest because of this. Is that something you fear as well?
It depends on how the low oil prices in different countries will be tackled by the governments. It may be easier in some governments, in countries, it may be more difficult in others. But what is important is that this is an important lesson for many oil exporting countries. They should diversify their economy. If they rely on one single commodity, if the price of the commodity collapses, they are in difficulty. So this is an important lesson for them.
My last question to you, do you expect US to begin exports of the oil that they're producing and are in excess supply of right now?
They may well export some oil, there's a discussion about that, but whatever happens in the next 10 years or so, US will remain a net oil importer. So the production growth in the United States is good news for US to reduce their oil imports, but the demand growth coming from India, China, other Asian countries will be met at a large extent from one destination, which is Middle East.
That's right.
Middle East is and will remain critical for the oil markets for many years to come.
While oil remains critical to that part of the world's economy, it is also a very important question that I ask you before I let you go, that crude at about $50, dollar index at 90, what happens to the whole safe haven investment options?
Such as?
They were always considered to be safe haven investment options, crude and dollar, but dollar index at 90?
I think one has to never feel safe. It is a matter of taking risk, and the traders, the people who play in the paper market should be very careful, follow the markets. And my humble suggestion is look at the dynamics, not only look at today, but look at the next couple of steps.
Thanks very much for speaking to us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.